Have you ever wondered what secret transformed an ordinary young man into the richest, wisest, and most powerful man in the entire history of the Bible? After David's death, his son Solomon didn't just inherit a throne, he inherited challenges, enemies, and a divine calling. This isn't just another Bible story. It's a mystical account, full of difficult decisions, temptations, and choices that changed destinies. Maybe today you're seeking wisdom to succeed in life, face crises, break cycles, just like Solomon. Stay until the end, because this video will show you that true strength lies where few are looking. Get ready, what you're about to hear may change the way you see life. David's final advice, a father's words to his son. The time had come. David, the man after God's own heart, the one who faced Goliath, wrote Psalms, fled from Saul, and ruled Israel for 40 years, was now in his final days. The warrior king was leaving, and he would leave behind more than a throne. He would leave a legacy. Solomon, already recognized as king, was summoned into his father's presence. But what David said at that moment wasn't about military strategy, wealth, or political alliances. He knew the throne was too heavy to be supported by human strength alone. He needed to pass on to Solomon the true secret of kingship, obedience to God. The scene is intimate and powerful. A father, weak in body but still burning in spirit, looks into his son's eyes and says, 1 Kings 2 verses 2-3, "I am about to go the way of all the earth. Be strong, and show yourself a man. Keep the charge of the Lord your God, walking in his ways and keeping his statutes, his commandments, his rules, and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that you may prosper in all that you do and wherever you turn." David didn't ask Solomon to be the smartest or the strongest. He asked him to be obedient to God. He knew the key to success, the true wisdom, wasn't in the throne, but in the covenant with the Lord. And he added, "If your descendants remain faithful to God, there will never lack a man on the throne of Israel." In other words, he was saying, the throne is important, but the heart is more. It was there, in that sacred moment, that Solomon fully understood. He wasn't just inheriting an earthly kingdom. He was receiving a divine mission. The old king ended his life as he began it, with faithfulness. And right after those words, David passed away. The psalmist who moved hearts with his harp, the warrior who inspired armies, the man who fell but also rose, rested. And Solomon stood there, eyes full of tears, heart pounding, and a voice echoing inside him for the rest of his life. Be a man, and walk with God. Now the young king was alone, but he was ready. And what comes next is simply one of the most extraordinary encounters between God and a human being. Solomon takes the throne, a young king facing a giant challenge. The throne room now had a new occupant. Old David was gone. And Solomon, still young, probably around 20 years old, found himself facing an overwhelming responsibility, ruling the people of God. Imagine the pressure. Solomon was intelligent, yes. He had been well taught, with a sensitive and observant heart. But being king of Israel, that was monumental. He wasn't stepping into just any reign, it was the throne that represented God's very presence among men. Israel wasn't an ordinary nation. It was the people who saw the sea part, received the law at Sinai, walked with the Ark of the Covenant, and sang David's psalms. A people with sacred history, and even greater expectations. And now, all eyes were on Solomon. He was young, yes, but he was about to prove that maturity doesn't come only with age, but with the fear of the Lord. And you know what he did? Instead of acting arrogantly or relying on his new authority, Solomon made a choice that revealed his heart. He went to Gibeon, where the tabernacle was set up, and offered 1,000 burnt offerings to God. 1,000. It wasn't just a ritual. It was a cry. A desperate act from someone saying, "Lord, I don't know how to rule without you." And it was there, in Gibeon, amid the smell of sacrifice and the silence of the night, that heaven opened. That night, God appeared to Solomon in a dream and asked a question that would change the course of history. Now we're getting to the turning point, where Solomon reveals the deepest desire of his heart, and God reveals the most powerful secret of wisdom. The extraordinary request. Solomon asks for wisdom. Night had fallen in Gibeon. The sky was full of stars, and the scent of burnt offerings still lingered in the air. The young King Solomon, after offering 1,000 sacrifices to the Lord, lay down to rest. But that night, something supernatural happened. God appeared to him in a dream. But it wasn't just any dream. It was a real conversation. Clear, deep, an encounter between the King of Kings and a young king of earth. And God asked a direct, powerful question. Ask what I shall give you. 1 Kings 3 verse 5. Now stop and think with me. How many people today, if they heard this from God, would ask for fortune, power, fame, victory over their enemies? But Solomon chose a different path. With humility, he replied, Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David. But I am still young and inexperienced. And this people you have entrusted to me is too great. How can I govern with justice? And then came the request that changed everything. Therefore, give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. Solomon didn't ask for wisdom to look smart. He asked for wisdom to serve well, to govern with justice, to honor God's name. And you know what happened? The Bible says Solomon's request pleased the Lord. 1 Kings 3 verse 10. And God responded generously. Since you have asked for this, and not for long life or wealth for yourself, nor for the death of your enemies, behold, I will do as you asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart, so that there has never been anyone like you, nor will there ever be. But God didn't stop there. Moreover, I will give you what you did not ask for, both riches and honor, so that in your lifetime you will have no equal among kings. Wow! Solomon asked for wisdom, and received everything, because those who seek the heart of God find the favor of God. And there, in that divine dawn, the wisest man who ever lived was born, not because he studied at great schools, but because he acknowledged his own limitations and humbled himself before the Most High. Solomon's wisdom didn't begin on a throne. It began in a prayer. And that's why, even today, it inspires kings, entrepreneurs, families, and nations. If you thought Solomon's coronation was the climax, just wait to see what comes next. In the upcoming chapters of the Bible story, you'll discover how a young king, guided by divine wisdom, faced intrigues, dangerous alliances, and decisions that still echo today. If you're already subscribed to the channel, turn on notifications to receive more videos and special lessons like this.